What's up, guys? It's Diego from the Foot and Fist Sports Network, back with another Fight Fallout show. This time, it's about UFC Pittsburgh, Luke Rockhold versus David Branch. And I'm actually surprised that this fight was as close as it was for as long as it was. I expected Luke Rockhold to go out there and dominate, but I will talk about that after I talk about Mike Perry versus Alex Reyes. And that fight was actually pretty damn entertaining because Alex Reyes went in there, and hats off to the guy. He went out there, ready to fucking brawl. He didn't go out there just shooting him for the takedown because that is what his skill set is. He went out there hoping that he could possibly do something against Mike Perry and make a statement, but Mike Perry is just an absolute machine. The guy is so damn thick. He actually shocked me with how weird he looked with that fucking mohawk. I'm assuming that Alex Reyes, as soon as he saw him with that mohawk, was like, dude, this guy's in a completely different range than me. This guy is absolute psychopath levels that haven't been reached yet in the UFC. I think him and Robbie Lawler might be neck and neck for psychopaths because he went absolutely nuts celebrating for beating Alex Reyes. What the fuck's going to happen when he beats somebody who's like real legit? I mean, the guy's absolutely insane. I look forward to seeing what the guy can do against some real elite competition. Like, once he gets better, because he still has some developing to do, and I don't want to see him immediately be thrown against guys like Robbie, but eventually, after maybe 2-3 more fights, he will probably be at that level. I think he has a lot of talent. He's just, in general, very gritty. He's just very, very heavy-handed. Also has a lot of power in his knees, as we saw. A lot of heavy kicks as well. Overall, he is really, really powerful, very explosive. He needs to work on a few things here and there, but I think he is going to be a very solid contender in the next few years. I mean, Alex Reyes, like I said, hats off to the guy for going out there and really trying to just get the win. I mean, I didn't know what the fuck he could possibly do. He's a lightweight moving up to welterweight on very short notice just to take on a guy like Mike Perry. Like, what the hell is he going to do? He was so much smaller. Not height-wise. I think he may have actually been a little bit taller, but he was definitely like a couple sizes smaller in terms of just pure size. So he was always going to have a size disadvantage. He was always going to have a strength disadvantage, probably having a skill disadvantage as well. The only thing he could possibly do was go in there, shoot a takedown, and possibly get a submission or something like that. There's Ulo in the fridge. And possibly get himself a ground and pound win or something like that if Mike Perry's ground game just wasn't on his level. And Mike Perry is actually explosive enough to where even if that guy got on top of him, I'm assuming he probably would have been able to just get out immediately just based on how physically strong he is. He doesn't necessarily have to have the best technique, but we're dealing with a guy that's much smaller than him, and with the fact that Mike Perry can possibly throw some strikes in the bottom and stuff like that, there's always a chance of him getting out of there and it's just exploding. So that was something that I was a bit worried about for this guy coming in. Obviously, whenever you get an opportunity to take on a guy who's got that much of a big up-and-coming name, you have to jump on it. But I just think that maybe he bit a little too much, a little bit more than he could chew. I mean, without a doubt he did. I mean, he should have just stuck at lightweight because he had a fight. If I'm not mistaken, he was booked on that same card, or maybe like one within like a week before or afterwards. But in my opinion, he should have just stuck with that fight, lost or won against the guy at lightweight. A win obviously would have propelled him a little bit further in that lightweight division, but there was almost no chance of him beating Mike Perry. I understand why he took it. Like I said, Mike Perry is a great opportunity to take on a guy who has a big name, well, not a big name, but is a guy who's developing a big name with some really, really big wins, and is realistically one of the top prospects in the UFC. But at the same time, you have to realize that on a 1 week's notice against a guy that big, that powerful, do you really want to risk it, having an extra loss in your career, instead of like developing in that lightweight division? I don't know. More than likely, the UFC promised him an extra chance in the UFC, so I'm assuming that's probably why he ended up taking it. Like, maybe what they offered him was better than what he would have gotten, regardless of even if he won against that lightweight guy. But still, it was a dangerous risk. It cost him, and Mike Perry definitely went out there and got a nice little win. I would like to see him either be rebooked against Thiago Alves, because I think that fight was really, really sick. I would love to see what happens there. And it's not like Thiago Alves had to pull out due to injury. It was because of the fact that he was stuck in Florida because of the hurricane. So it was kind of a nightmare situation for him. I would love to see them be rebooked within like a month, maybe a month and a half, because Mike Perry wasn't really damaged at all. And I'm assuming Thiago Alves is still in shape, so he can probably still get back into a little mini camp and be fine, be prepared enough to be fighting very, very soon. I would love to see that. I would absolutely love to see what those guys can do against each other, because Mike Perry looks like an animal. Thiago Alves has always been an animal. We'll see if the up-and-comer can take down the crafty veteran, and I would love to see that fight. If not, then I would like to see him take on anybody like maybe Tarek Saffiedine. We can't throw him anybody too high up the rankings. I think Tarek Saffiedine, being a striker who doesn't really like the ground game very much, would probably, well, not too much at least. I think that would probably be an interesting option for him, because Tarek is kind of a reserved fighter. He fights very conservatively. He doesn't really explode a lot, so it would give Mike Perry a chance to get a knockout against a pretty much decently named guy. He's always done well, and regardless of what division what company he's been fighting for. So for Mike Perry to be able to beat a guy like Tarek Saffiedine, who has that nice record, who has quite a bit of a name, especially late in the kickboxing scene. He has a nice name. So definitely a nice win for Mike Perry against Tarek Saffiedine if that does happen on the road. But like I said, Thiago Alves being such a barn burner, that's probably the fight I would rather see. When it comes to the main event, I didn't expect David Branch to really go out there and shine against Luke Rockhold. And he didn't necessarily do that because he did get submitted in the second round. But still, he had one hell of a first round, and arguably, he won it. I mean, I didn't expect him to go out there and do that. Without a doubt, I didn't expect him to be able to do that. But what he did was just pressure Rockhold, and what we saw was that Rockhold still does struggle with that. We saw when Chris Weidman employed that game plan early on in that first round, and somewhat in the second round as well, in their title fight, that Rockhold did struggle a little bit. He doesn't fight very well on the back foot. He's not necessarily a counter fighter, He explodes better when he's throwing leg kicks, when he's throwing body shots and head kicks, when he's mixing it all up, but at his range, at his pace, and at his will. When he's fighting backwards, when he's getting pressured, you would expect him to do a lot better, considering he trains with Daniel Cormier, he trains with Cain Velasquez, he trains with, I don't think he really trains with Khabib, but still, he trains with high-level pressure fighters. So I'd have expected him to do a little bit better than that, but David Branch, to give him credit, went with a very, very fast pace. He has quite a bit of a range on him as well. He's not a small guy. I think he's shorter than Luke Rockhold, but I think he may have had a little bit of a longer range, a couple inches there. But nothing great, but still, a nice little advantage for him to use against a guy like Rockhold who does like to fight rangy. So I was kind of surprised to see that Rockhold was still struggling with that. And it's one thing to do it against Chris Weidman, who is an elite wrestler, who's a decent striker, who's just an overall, really, really good fighter. It's a different story to do it against Branch, who, yes, is a good striker, is a good wrestler and all that stuff. He's a pretty well-rounded fighter, but he's definitely not Chris Weidman. You know what I mean? So I was very surprised to see that, but good enough for Rockhold. Luckily for Rockhold, because I was hoping to see him get back into form and get back into the title mix, because I think that he is the very best middleweight, and I would love to see him fight any of those guys. Weidman again, Jacare, Romero, Bisping again, GSP if that happens. Probably not GSP, but, overall, Robert Whittaker for sure. There's just so many great matchups with him that David Branch doesn't really look like, okay, well, I don't really give a shit about seeing him fight yet. If he'd have beat Rockhold, without a doubt, I would have been a lot more enthusiastic. But I think he needs to get himself a couple more wins against real elite fighters in that weight class before he can get back in that title mix. This was his chance. He didn't blow it necessarily. He was just beaten by a much better fighter. But still, he has to get himself in there. He kind of wasted a chance. He has to get himself the right to be in that mix again. Luke Rockhold, I would love to see him either fight Romero right now, Yoel Romero next, or just immediately come back and fight the winner of GSP Bisping. But it really depends on what happens with Robert Whittaker. Like, how long is Robert Whittaker going to be out for? Is he going to fight? Is he going to be the immediate contender against Bisping, the winner of Bisping and GSP? Because realistically, and in my opinion, he should be, because he's the interim champion. If he's fit to fight, they need to unify the belt and be done with the interim title thing. And that's what they need to do. But if he isn't there, are they going to want to throw in, Rockhold versus Romero, and the winner of that decides who is the number one contender for the main belt? Or if Bisping and GSP somehow get hurt fighting each other, or the winner gets hurt, then is Rockhold going to fight for the interim championship, and then the winner of that fights the actual champion? It's just such a mess, I hate this interim championship shit. Like, Bisping was literally out for 6 months, and they already made an interim title. It just makes no sense whatsoever. They did the same thing with I can understand the McGregor thing because he was out for a long time, and who knows how long he's going to be out for. I can understand that, but that's just so stupid. Why so many interim titles? It makes no sense. It literally has no meaning in the weight class, and it just makes things harder to really maneuver around. There's just so much shit in there. It's so clogged up, and realistically, if there was no interim title, it'd be so much easier. Robert Whittaker would be the number one contender. If he's too injured to fight, Rockhold, who just beat David Branch, would slide in and get the title shot. Whoever wins the fight between Rockhold and the eventual champion would then fight Robert Whittaker for the title. It's so much easier that way, but now because they have this dumbass interim title, we have to wait and see what happens with Whittaker. It's just so dumb. It really is so dumb. But either way, Luke Rockhold versus Yoel Romero, or the winner of GSP and Bisping. That's what I want to see. If not, throw him against Robert Whittaker. If for some reason And it's just a wrench thrown in there. So either way, put him against one of the two champions, basically, or put him against Yoel Romero, because the only matchup we haven't seen him fight. Plus, I think Weidman versus Jacare is being targeted for an upcoming event, so I wouldn't exactly put them in there. I wouldn't mess with that. I think that's a great fight. Jacare and Weidman both have great jiu-jitsu. Put them there, see who wins, because on the feet that's going to be an interesting battle as well. So I would love to see that fight stick. So put Rockhold versus Romero versus one of the two champions. That is it. That is it for the video, guys. If you enjoyed it, please soccer kick the shit out of that like button, pride style, baby. And also let me know in the comment section down below who you want to see these guys fight, who impressed you the most. What exactly do you want to see next in their futures? Also, guys, please share the video if you want to. That's extremely helpful, and I am extremely grateful to anybody who does that. Thank you so much if you do. I've been Diego from the Foot and Fist Sports Network, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.